Bobby Johnson. Well done, Manchester United.
It's a Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it! And the Saar saved it! United again! René! A magnificent goal by Robin Van Persie!
Welcome to United Hour, your official Red Cafe podcast for all things Manchester United. I'm your host, Nick.
I'm Colin.
I'm Craig.
And I'm Ed.
Yeah, back for the new season. We had vaguely planned to do some kind of World Cup show, but it didn't happen because, people were too busy and I was away with work and this and that. But yeah, back for pre-season, and we will do a quick chat about the World Cup, I think. Did everybody enjoy the World Cup?
Yes.
I think it's my favourite one.
I enjoyed ignoring it.
Yeah, Craig, what? I know you said you had no interest in the World Cup at all, right? What? You're just saying you didn't watch any games? Nothing? What?
I didn't watch anything from it. I watched
Not even the final?
No.
Oh.
I watched the mistake by Manuel Neuer, but that was it. Didn't bother otherwise.
I do find that pretty crazy. Like, I can understand that as a bitter Welshman whose team didn't qualify, that you weren't wishing football came home to England or whatever. But I would have thought you'd at least take some interest in the United players or something like that. But yeah, you just shut it out as if it wasn't happening at all.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, even though like United players were in it, like, I just I wouldn't have liked any of the other players in their team, like, because obviously, like, some of them will play for rivals. And it's like, yeah, I want our players to succeed, but not enough to watch a game, you know.
All right, find that pretty bizarre, but yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I'm with Coleman Ed. I thought it was a great World Cup. Watched as much of it as I could. I was in England for the first part of it, and I was actually in Morocco for a good a week or so of it. Unfortunately missed. Morocco had gone out by then, so I didn't actually get to see Morocco playing while I was out there. But yeah, it was interesting seeing the games in different perspectives and different commentaries.
Oh,
and
it was
everything.
absolutely crazy. I was in Portugal for a lot of the group stages. Every time there was a Portugal game on, the whole place just ground to a halt. And like anywhere you were, I remember obviously when we were in the cities and stuff, all the bars, people were just going mad, and everyone was so into it. But also we were going home, and we went through the airport in Lisbon during a game, and the entire airport was like in this tiny airport bar, including like the police officers and security with like big massive guns, like throwing them in the air, like cheering with their guns pointing in the air, kind of thing, and stuff like that, like going mad for this Portugal game. And it was the most mad thing, but everyone was just buzzing and delighted. And it was really like obviously I'm in Northern Ireland, but the comparison we have is like England, where during a World Cup, and even this World Cup, where it was like the most kind of good feeling towards the home team as I can remember ever. But even still, people like love to criticize or love to like jump on, or there's still a bit of a divide kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Whereas over there, everyone was just like 100% going mad for Portugal, like, you know, no kind of bashing or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it is cool getting that atmosphere in other countries as well and seeing who's supporting who. And like you say, obviously England was a great story at this World Cup. I mean, yeah, I'm old enough to have a good memory of 1990. I don't know if any of you guys do.
I was -1, so no.
Yeah. I think I was 2. No, not even 2 yet.
Yeah, no, like I say, 1990. That was probably the first World Cup that I actually watched properly. I have vague memories of 86, but not really. But yeah, 1990, I remember it all very clearly. And, I thought then that England were going to be brilliant every World Cup. Yeah, little did I know that it was going to take several decades till we got anywhere near that again. And yeah, in those days as well, there was quite, what people expected, whereas this time, I mean, I myself had said that I thought it was the worst England squad, weakest on paper that I'd seen ever in my life. And yeah, expectations were obviously very low, but I think that kind of helped the squad in a bit, really. I think, Ed, I remember you saying something weird before, saying, I'm going to enjoy this World Cup because I'm not an England supporter anymore, or something like that.
Yeah,
didn't you say?
Yeah. Well, I'm not an England supporter anymore I Beckham was dropped in 2008, just because McLaren wanted to put his stamp on the team. And I got sick of watching the same boring crap every game. So but going into this tournament, I did think, because of the way Gareth Southgate's gone around assembling the team and the players he's actually selected, I thought they'd do quite well. Because he selected a team that would play as a team. and was the sum of its parts, as opposed to Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, Scholes thrown out on the wing because we need to get all the names in on the same team sheet. It just seemed different for me for this World Cup for England.
So during this World Cup, when England were in the group stages, knockout, quarters, and you were watching their games, do you cheer when they score? Are you happy that they go through?
And not early on. I was indifferent early on.
And that's so odd. I find that so odd because obviously, I get it, with Beckham and McLaren and all that, but obviously the thing about national football is it rotates, almost as much as club football, probably more, in that managers don't really stay for that long, players change altogether. Obviously 20 years probably or 10, 15 years has passed since the World Cup you're talking about, so it just seems strange to kind of bear that grudge to your home nation.
Yeah.
But it is quite a popular thing amongst United fans, going back to, plenty of players scapegoated here and there. People talk about, Beckham this time, Rooney one time, whatever, Phil Neville. And, there is a kind of semi-movement, probably slightly out of date now. But yeah, there used to be the whole, you can stick your fucking England up your arse kind of movement. And it's like you say, there's quite a lot of our fan base who are quite indifferent to the whole England thing due to past history. I mean, I personally have always wanted to see England do well. I'd say I'd got kind of the lowest ever expectations, and a bit like Ed, I'd started getting a bit bored of it just because every time there was glorious failure.
Yeah.
But I still wanted England to do well. I expected very little just because we'd constantly had these disappointments, one tournament after another for so long now. But yeah, pleasantly surprised. Came out the group stage or whatever. I was in England for the group stages, and yeah, the atmosphere around, especially at that Panama game where it all really started being a bit of a party, was great seeing over there. But and then going through one ground, next round, and everything, started building. I mean, I never thought football was coming home, to be honest, and I thought that kind of bandwagon was going a bit OTT, but I think people were just happy to see the team doing well again and getting back together on it all. I mean, as a Northern Irish boy, Colm, what were you wishing for?
Well, I'm the kind of Northern Irish person that most people hate, in that I have no issue with England. I actually really like seeing England do well. Even though I would consider myself Irish as well and things like that, so I'm a very confused kind of Northern Irish person that people wouldn't necessarily understand. Probably a new sort of Northern Irish person that didn't used to exist over here. But my logic is that I support Manchester United, so I don't understand how people can on one hand support Manchester United, Liverpool, blah, blah, follow the Premier League every week, and suddenly when it comes to international football, when your nation isn't playing, isn't involved anymore, suddenly say, oh, I hate England, don't want England to do well, blah, 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 because of some sort of prehistoric colonial grudge you bear or something like that. I know there's a lot to it. Obviously, I don't want to offend anyone, but for me, to always watch Rooney, to watch Beckham, to watch United players, to watch now Rashford, Lingard, and even other players in the Premier League who I just don't mind watching at all, to see them do well will always be more I'll always be more happy for that than to see Insigne do well for Italy and he plays in the Italian league. I wouldn't ever follow that other team. Obviously, it takes on a little bit of a different impact when you have if Pogba, such an important player for us playing for France. Then, of course, I want to see France do as well. And in that regard, there was no loser for me. If Belgium won it, I would have been delighted because Lukaku had such a starring role. If France did win it, I was delighted for Pogba. If England had gone even further, it would have been a little bit hard to bear with the media. It would have been because they just can't contain themselves. Beating someone 2-1 that you should be hammering 5-1 turns into a national tribute to Gareth Southgate. And I just think they did get carried away with themselves, because as much as I was impressed with England and really liked the way they set up and played, for me they only went 3 quarters. They never really played the football that they could have. And I also think he didn't make the kind of subs and necessarily use the squad to the best. He struck very rigidly with a few players who I think ultimately let him down. And in that sense, it was still a bit of a mismanagement in my opinion, even though fair enough, they did absolutely well. I think they had a very fortunate route, but it's still great to see.
Yeah, this team massively overachieved. I mean, if you really look at it, England played well as a team, worked hard, but created very little. There was some stats out there of how many chances created. Harry Kane barely having a shot on target over a couple of matches. Sterling running his bollocks off, but missing anything that end product there. Of course, it was great to see. It was actually quite late, just before the tournament, that the likes of Lingard and Young forced themselves to becoming starting England players. But yeah, like I say, I'm like, I always support England, but because we normally go out pretty early, I'm normally then end up supporting whichever teams have the United players in them.
Yeah.
And I was actually pre-tournament expecting that, it was probably going to be Belgium or somebody like that were going to be my allegiances switching to. But England went much further than possibly expected, and much further than I think the performances actually deserved. At the end of the day, it was really a great set piece routines that took us all the way there, and it was actually a great set piece thing, that where everybody kind of gets in a little queue and runs off in different directions, and some good balls coming in from both fullbacks, Young and Trippier, making the difference there. If we talk about some of the United players, how did you Lingard had quite an interesting role, because it was quite a different role than what he plays for United, really. He was really part of a three-man central midfield. Henderson, Holding, then Ali, Lingard over there. Whereas for us, he normally plays a little bit more further forward or a bit wider. Do you think he's somewhere he might play for us this season, or do you not see it happening at all? Colm, what do you reckon?
It's tough, because I think even Mourinho knows that that's kind of where he needs to play. Maybe a little bit further forward is where we would normally see him, but I think it's not that dissimilar role. It's when you shunt him out to wide right that you really lose that impact and that balance in your own team, because to have a winger who plays like that in Mata or Lingard, as we've seen for the past 4 or 5 years, just doesn't really work out that well if you don't have an extremely good fullback behind them, which luckily England sort of did, in Trippier, and obviously they were playing 3 at the back with the 2 wing backs then bombing on, which was great to see. But Lingard, to me, just whenever he's on the pitch, you just see his worth, and I think you definitely get that more in that central role, but it's sort of worthwhile anywhere. He links the play so well, his movement is so hard to deal with, and when he's on form, when he's in that good mood, he knits everything together, his finishing's very good, he shows he has a lot of quality, from range and things like that, and it just seems to be growing in confidence, firstly in his United career, and he's taken that on into his international career. Like, I really think he was one of the first names on the team sheet for Southgate, and even a lot of commentators and kind of partisans, I think, would have come around to the fact of just how useful he is, particularly when you compare him to Dele Alli's. Like, I'm not sure if he was fit, but he just looked tragic, the whole tournament. And Sterling, a lot of these players really, he outperformed, who I think would be much more, people would think are much more sort of quality players, sort of quote unquote, when actually Lingard's qualities just aren't as obvious, but are definitely as impactful.
Yeah, he actually scored England's best goal by far.
Oh, definitely. Probably their only goal from open play, was it?
I think there was a couple of others. There was that one that kind of banged off Kane and went in, I think, which was counted as an open play goal. I think there was one other now, can't remember which. No, the other one, Lingard set up the other goal from the open play. He crossed it over and Ali headed it in.
Yeah.
So, there was only like 3 goals that came from open play, and he scored one of them and set up the other. But, I was actually defending Lingard all this tournament. I'm in various WhatsApp groups, like one that people I play football with, which is full of Scousers and City fans, Tottenham, Arsenal, the whole lot. And he was getting a lot of stick from a lot of people saying, oh, Lingard, he doesn't do anything. And, constantly feeling like I was having to, defend him there. But, it's the way it goes. In the press, Sterling was getting a lot of stick. And for a player that scored 23 goals or whatever this season, that he hasn't scored for 3 years for England or something.
It's crazy.
Just crazy. Yeah. He was doing a lot of good work for the team, running around. I'm not going to slang him totally, because, he did everything apart from just giving that finishing product every time. And then, obviously, like I say, it's great to see Ashley Young fight his way into the England team. Even at his age, it's the first time he's appeared in a World Cup, and was, regular every game there.
Pogba! And again, Pogba! Paul Pogba has the biggest goal of his career, and he started it all himself.
Lines it up, and what a strike that is.
I guess the big one we should talk about is United's first World Cup winner since back in 1966. It's actually quite surprising to look at some of the stats. But Paul Pogba had a massive World Cup, and I was actually pretty surprised that he didn't get any mentions at all for team of the tournament and things like that. Because I thought, he really grew all the way through that tournament, and being as well one of the standout players for the winning team. Like I say, I was a bit surprised there was no mention of him anyway around that. But the big questions obviously all come back to his role for us. And I think, Ed, I saw you commenting, didn't you, about comments from Mourinho about Pogba. What were you wanting to say on that?
Didn't he say, I hope Pogba remembers how he played for the World Cup, for France at the World Cup? And I just, at first I thought that was a bit out of order, really, because surely Mourinho gives Pogba his instructions each game on how he wants him to play, and I think there's been rumours that they've remonstrated about that and had a disagreement about how Pogba should be playing. I mean, it's fair to say that Pogba sometimes tries to overplay, but like we've been saying, he was fantastic in the World Cup. It grew as a player, both in maturity and just in his general game.
Mourinho also made some comments, he did say that, but he also said something to the effect of, the World Cup was perfect for him because there was no distractions. He had to stay within that camp, and he just was playing football for 3 weeks, and that's when you get the best out of him. He was kind of sort of saying that, something in regards to Pogba's lifestyle or his focus during the season, that it isn't entirely on every Manchester United game, and that he's kind of looking at all these other things and doing all these things and just shows up to play football on a Saturday kind of thing. Which, like, again, I just don't understand the point of these barbs, like what it's meant to achieve or who it's meant to help, but in that kind of setting and that kind of public manner, because I don't think it'll motivate Pogba. I don't think it'll give you what you want, and it certainly doesn't make Mourinho look any good. But like Ed's definitely right. Like Pogba, I felt France in general during the group stages were average and kind of just doing what they need to, and they looked like it was kind of easy for them, but they never really went out of second gear. But at the same time, it was quite boring at times for the amount of quality they have.
Yeah,
but as soon as it got into the knockout stages, I thought he and the rest of the team just grew and grew. And, to watch him over 90 minutes in a two-man midfield, the way he played was so good, box to box, dominant physically, great defensively, and so creative, with sometimes simple passes, sometimes outrageous passes, always looking for the pace of Mbappe through the lines.
Head up every time. Always looking for the forward the ball. Always.
And, always shielding the ball. And I just kind of felt like, yes, obviously it's a tournament that means a lot to him, and he's playing in a France team that, was hotly tipped to win. Obviously, everyone thought they had the best squad going in. It was very much proved. They weren't ever really in trouble in that World Cup, really, at all. And Deschamps set his team up well. Not a manager I'm that fond of, and I think he kind of limits the team in a similar way to the way Mourinho sets up, very focused on being in a good shape and being strong defensively and everyone doing their role, So it almost shows that, that isn't the issue either. It's not necessarily the setup. I generally think it's just when he's surrounded by good players, he plays better. And I don't mean that as an excuse to say, like, oh, he's too good for these players or he can't do it all on his own. But I generally think that's a little part of it. I think when you put him in a system that everyone knows and with players around him who are all comfortable in their role and are all doing the right thing as well, it's just easy for him to do all these good things, And I don't necessarily think we always have that at United over the past 2 or 3 years.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that is the interesting thing for me. Like, in fact, this World Cup, it quite changed my opinion of Pogba, because I was very much last season saying that, I don't think he can play. He's disciplined enough to play in the two-man, and he needs to play in the three-man and given a freer role, and his best is the attacking qualities. But in this World Cup, we've seen him play in a two-man midfield. He was really disciplined, did all the defensive things brilliantly, plus did all the things we know he can do well, which is the passing and creative side of it. But yeah, it was like his defensive play that was really picked out every time. I mean, I don't know whether it's something to do with Kante. Matic is a good player. Obviously his partner
Matic is good, but Kante must be one of the best players to play with, like, in the world. Because
he obviously covers a ridiculous amount of ground and
he does
can
the
make
job
up.
Of two midfielders.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe that is part of it. That it gives Pogba that bit more license, even though he's in a two. That Kante's just running all day long. But it can't just be down to that. I mean, there must be something in the instructions that he's getting. I don't know the difference between what Deschamps is telling him to what Mourinho's telling him. There has to be something else which fundamentally different. And to me, this shows that it's not about his position. It's not about the fact that he can do this or that. So yeah, what is it? What is the difference?
I don't know, but Kante was taken off in the final, and Pogba still elevated his game.
Yeah. I think he came off around half time, didn't he? But at that point, France were already winning, weren't they? Well, no, it was. What was it at half time?
I can't remember now.
I can't remember now, actually. Anyway, yeah. Look, there has to be something. Like you say, Mourinho's comments very much say that, look, I know he can do all these things. And I think Mourinho as well knows that some people are kind of slightly pushing them at him and saying, well, how come you haven't got these performances out of Pogba? And that's why he immediately gets on the defensive when anybody starts asking him about it. I mean, you'd want to hear him just come out and say, yeah, brilliant World Cup for Pogba. Yeah. I hope he can just replicate that now. I'm really looking forward to him coming and doing the same thing for United. But, Instead, like you get these other comments which are slightly negative, and you're not really sure what he's trying to achieve.
Which is probably a good a point as any to kind of talk about that, because it's been a fixture through the preseason as well. He just seems so negative.
We start the game with almost half of the players are not even going to belong to our squad on the 9th of August. Many of them are not going to be here. So this is not our squad. This is not even half of my squad. This is not even 30% of my squad.
I'm not one who likes to analyse all press conferences to the nth degree, what managers say, because, sometimes there's throwaway comments, but every day he does seem to come out with something that annoys me a bit. I mean, I know, Craig, I saw you were trying to defend him a bit today, right, on the Red Cafe, talking about some of the comments he was making about youth players, because a lot of players have not been impressed, have said that basically he's thrown a lot of these young players under the bus, not giving them the support and that they need at this kind of time and encouragement, and basically was suggesting that none of them are good enough and are going to be out of the club. But I mean, you had a slightly different view, didn't you?
Yeah, like the whole half this squad isn't my team. Like he just meant that in the sense that half of them are reserves and youth, and that some of them will probably go on loan and they're not all going to be in the first team. That's really what he meant. But for some reason, people are taking it as though he's actually saying they're not good enough. But like that's not really how he meant it at all. Like obviously, English isn't his first language, but he does speak it very well. But like sometimes, maybe he doesn't say things in the right way. But in this situation, like people have taken it the wrong way. Like I don't think anyone can honestly look at the team that played against Liverpool and say half of that team will be in the first team come the August 10th. And it's true, like they will not be in the team. They're not his team. His team are the senior players. They're his squad. They're not there. That's what he meant. But people have to take everything he says to this extreme where he's shitting on everyone all the time, and it's stupid. Like he's negative, but it's because he hates the press. Ferguson hated the press, for Christ's sake. I hate the press. They're gutter rats at the end of the day. All they do is lie, manipulate things, and ask stupid questions to get managers to say stupid things. And with Mourinho, they know if they ask a stupid question, he'll give a stupid answer because he hates them. If I was a manager, I would probably never speak to the press because I know what they're like. And I hate them. I hate the press so much, honest to God.
It is difficult to argue with that because, they're all good points, and it's true, like, especially these press conferences. You see some of the questions these guys come out with when they've got this massive opportunity to ask, like, and they just come out and say, can you give us any names of players you want to buy? As if he's going to, reel off anybody that he's interested in. And you're like, really? Like, this is your one chance to ask, like, a decent question, and that's what you're going to bloody ask him.
But, like, our media outlets now, like, I remember, like, we used to go on The Guardian for articles, and the reporter would maybe do one a week. And that one piece would be researched and thoughtful and incisive, and it might not even be about something that's ongoing. It might be like a whole tactical piece or something like that, and you still get them. But now there's this demand and there's need, and it's the smartphone issue where we need everything every day. We can't just have one article a day. Never mind one a week. We need one every hour. We need an update every 2 minutes, so every single comment is analysed. And like, I guess they must just feel the pressure of having to churn out so much content that ultimately it's all crap. It's all complete crap. It's all, twisting a simple statement to make it sound impactful and make it sound perhaps, like Craig thinks, like something it isn't, or merging two statements that were said 20 minutes apart, but making it sound like one sentence to make it sound like a really horrible thing. And they also have their darlings and their favourites, and they know what they get out of each manager. Some managers you can do that with, and Mourinho's the perfect case, and some managers you can't. One thing I would say is, like, he always gives you the chance, put it that way, and also, like, without wanting to go too meta, and as Nick says, there's really no point in overanalyzing certain things, his whole demeanour and his attitude, it doesn't seem great to me, and without, we don't see what goes on in the dressing room, we don't see what goes on in the training sessions, and I see a lot of social media photos from the players, and it all looks very good and happy, laughy, smiley, jokey, and Mourinho getting involved, and I kind of just always refer back to that and think, well, look, maybe we're only seeing this one tiny side of it that looks really bad and looks really toxic. But at the same time, why even put that out at all? You have to know that that's going to happen, and you have to know the impact that has on on fans, on rivals, on our players, on clubs that want to buy our players and things like that, So, like, why even put that out there? Why can't you just give the diplomatic answer like Pep, or give the funny answer like Klopp, or whatever, Why does everything have to be such a dirge, and you give them that opportunity to create that headline? Because you don't have to. You can just be super boring or super PC and just answer the question, even though you know it's a dumb question,
Or you could just say next question, like Fergie used to.
Mm-hmm.
Just next question.
Yeah, I'm not answering that. That's stupid. Or like Keane, just chew them out, But make it about them. Don't
exactly.
Answer it in a way that makes it about us,
Exactly.
And I said this to a few friends who I was watching the Liverpool game with, and then about the post-match comments on that, which weren't great. Like, I don't think, yes, you can edit them up and you can say that the media are twisting them in a certain way, but I still don't know why he's saying those things. Why can't you just come out and say, look, we got a bit of fitness, it was pre-season, Liverpool have had like 8 games, we've had 2, they were a lot sharper, we didn't really show up, the tactics weren't right, and that's what it is. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter because it's a pre-season game and no one actually cares. There's no issue with that, that's what everyone's thinking, just say it,
Yeah.
But he has to come out and kind of, everything is taking blame away from him. Everything is projecting it onto something else. Everything is kind of confrontational, and it's just like, why are you creating this one man siege mentality? Ferguson used to create a siege mentality that was us against them, and protecting people, but doing them down. So he would attack the outside, but protect the inside, and keep. He did ultimately throw some players under the bus sometimes, but it was very much a building up us and not them. Whereas Mourinho was like, I protect me, and I'll throw them away, and this kind of thing, which to me is just different. And it's just, I think it shows that he can't accept any kind of slight on his ego.
Fergie wouldn't even do that at the start of the season. When pre-season and the negativity has started.
That's meaningless, yeah.
There's just no need for it. Just get on with the pre-season, get some fitness, build up to the Leicester game on Friday.
I mean, it's true that the pre-season has been a bit of a mess. I mean, it's nobody's particularly fault. It's actually goes down to the fact that our players did really well at the World Cup. I mean,
exactly,
that's one of the big reasons.
Which is a problem for us, but not a problem because it's a great thing. And then we have the fact that the transfer window shuts early, which is also a bit of an issue, and seasons just start earlier and earlier and earlier these days. So, if we had a real slow start to the season, I don't think anyone could blame Mourinho. That's not necessarily his fault, but I think he feeds into it, and he's creating that problem more by acknowledging it so much,
Yeah, exactly. He could, say something to just say, yeah, look, it's not a great piece season. And other clubs have got similar. Tottenham had loads of players gone pretty far in. City had a few. All right, it is better for some other teams, Arsenal, Liverpool.
We had the most out of any club in the world, I think, in terms of players at the World Cup, players deep into the World Cup, compared to anyone else in world football. Obviously, the Premier League had the most compared to any other league, but United particularly, that's a bigger problem for us than it is for everyone else.
Yeah, I think going to semi-finals, because they're the players who are getting the biggest rest. I think Tottenham had as many as us. We actually had the most we've ever had in our history. It was the biggest, most successful World Cup for United players. I was actually, again, pretty surprised to see that we've only ever had 5 players who played for United who reached the World Cup semi-finals in history before, and that was Charlton, Styles all the way back in '66, and then more recently Ronaldo, Louis Saha and Robin van Persie last time round. And this time in the semi-finals we had Lingard, Young, Lukaku, Fellaini, Pogba, Rashford had a few minutes, and even Jones was on the bench. So yeah, I mean, by far it was like the biggest World Cup for United players. But yeah, now maybe we're going to suffer at the start of the season because of that, because obviously none of these players have been on pre-season. Mourinho's been making some comments where he's trying to encourage players to come back early from holiday. But yeah, bizarrely, he said himself, at the start of this pre-season, that the players need to have this time off, because if they don't get 3 weeks off and I throw them straight into it around Christmas time, they're going to be mentally done. But then I've seen him making comments in the last few days, basically saying, I hope, the likes of Ashley Young and whatever might cut their holidays short and come and join the squad earlier than they are. And I think I read that Rashford and Jones, who didn't play that much at the World Cup, even though they were there, are coming back to the squad earlier. Still question marks over when the likes of Lukaku, Fellaini and Pogba might join. Some of the players are out there already. I think De Gea turned up right.
Yeah,
he was yesterday, I think.
Fred had his first few minutes. He didn't play for Brazil, though, even though he was out there. Then, Matic is out there but injured and looks like he's going to miss the start of the season, which is quite a big issue. Valencia obviously got injured straight away. Then we had Sanchez, who couldn't get a visa due to some random suspended tax issues or whatever. I don't know what. Yeah, like I said, everything that could have gone wrong has kind of made a bit of a mess of it. But yeah, I know, Colm, you said you've seen all of the games so far. I tried to watch the 2 games that weren't too late. There was the San Jose, but it was actually a waste of time, 0-0. I think I fell asleep at half time and didn't watch the rest of it. And then I did watch most of the Liverpool game the other day. That at least was an interesting game, but yeah, I kind of switched it off before the end, which I think you did similar, right?
Yeah, I kind of tapped out for the last 5 minutes, which I would never normally even do in like a league game, but just because preseason, because Shaqiri scored an overhead kick, I was just like, Christ. Which is a shame because the first half was a good game, and I don't care about the result in preseason. I love watching preseason, and I re-signed up to MUTV for like £6 just for the month, just because I knew I'd get like 5 or 6 games, which to me is great value for money. I know I can watch them all perfectly. And that, with the times they're at, it actually sort of suits me and stuff like that to watch them all. So I have seen every minute.
I think we should contact MUTV and ask for some advertising.
Some free digs, yeah. To me, like, I don't care. Like, I literally don't care about the result. I want to see players getting a chance, and in this preseason, we had a kind of we sort of reached out to Twitter and or I should say Craig did, and asked for like some topics that people want to talk about and some things, which I think we're going to go through here shortly. But one of them was from Alpo, who said, "Dunno, talk about positives so people can calm down a bit," which I think is like a great thing. But there are positives in this preseason, which is kind of the thing that has been lost in all of this. People want to talk about transfers, people want to talk about Mourinho.
Yeah, well, let's start with those positives then, because you're right. There was Alpo at Crookman who was talking about that, and also big friend of the podcast, Jamie FC 2000. What's he called? Vault Dweller nowadays in the CAF, and he's saying, constant negativity on Red Cafe. Yeah. What's it all about? So let's talk about the positives.
And that's what that is. Like for me, Pereira, huge positive. Like I am so impressed with him, and I don't mean to turn this positive and negative, but I'll be so disappointed if he doesn't get a shot at the start of the season. I think he looks supremely cultured. He looks like he has a lot of bite. His passing range is as good as anyone's at the club for me. I think he has a level of incision in his passing, but also just general passing. So when he takes the ball and sprays it out wide, it's played with pace, it's played flat, and it's played in front of the man. It's not this kind of bobbly, behind him, slow that we're so used to from some of our more mediocre on-the-ball midfielders and defenders. So for me, he offers so much, and he's also got that bite. I think, do you play him in a two-man midfield? Probably not, probably not. But for me, he has place there 100%, scored an absolutely dime bar free kick against Liverpool, like unsavable, and I just think he showed a lot of passion. He's very active on social media, and he's been very active during the last year when he was at Valencia, who by the way didn't do too bad. I know he didn't start every game for them, but they were doing well in La Liga, which is kind of a turn up for them after the Gary Neville episode. But he's done so well, and his whole time when he was in Valencia, he was given 2 or 3 articles out to say, look, I still see myself as a Manchester United player on loan. I still talk regularly with the coaches. They evaluate my performance. They talk to me, and I have every intention of coming back there and making it as a United player. And I just think that is superb. It shows that he has the attitude, and I can't imagine Mourinho doesn't love that, and he's praised him on this tour. So for me, he's the standout positive, absolutely. You've also got Sanchez, I think, has looked razor sharp. He's been by far our best attacking player. He's just looked quick. He's looked like he's been able to beat men. His passing, his finishing, all that has been good, and he just looks so sharp. I think I said it last year. I think don't judge him too soon. We all expected him to be the player he had for Arsenal, but Arsenal's such a specific way of playing that I don't think we were ever going to get that exact player because we don't play anything like Arsenal. So I think with a full preseason behind him and a season to kind of make his mark, he will be like a new signing that we all wanted him to be in the first place. That maybe didn't quite turn up in every single game last year. So that's another huge positive. We've obviously got Grant, who's probably as good as De Gea. He's absolutely amazing. So he's been so good. So
we've definitely got the best third choice goalie
and second choice goalie. So we're doing well in that element. Do you know what I mean? I think Bailey has looked okay, and it's just good to see him fit. I think it's been interesting to see a lot of the youth players who look good. None of them, I don't think any really ready. I know there's a lot of clamour for Chong. I personally don't think he's ready, although I would like to see him in cup games and stuff like that. But to me, there's a lot of positives there. There's a lot of good things in our performances that, are just completely falling by the wayside because people just constantly want to talk. And I get, the negative is always going to be more kind of in your mind and more, sometimes when we do Doom and Gloom podcasts, they kind of get more of a response than the positive ones because people kind of like to have a moan. But, for Jamie asking about the state of the CAF, for me, and I love the CAF, and I always have, and I always will, and I'll always stay on it. It's my one-stop shop for everything Manchester United, But I find it very hard to read at the moment. I find it very difficult to engage in any kind of thread because the level of silly is it's beyond the pale.
Yeah,
I know what you mean there, totally. I mean, there is negativity, and like we say, a lot of it is coming straight from Mourinho, and then the press are playing on that. But yeah, at the same time, let's not forget this is just pre-season. It's not going to be the best pre-season for us, but yeah, it doesn't really matter until we kick it all off next week. I would like to, focus back on Pereira because that has been obviously the standout positive of this pre-season so far. I mean, yeah, this is a make or break season for him. He's had those couple of loan deals and he's not going to get any bigger loan than Valencia. So now he either makes it with us or he's out of there. It's been great to see him come back in and do well. I think we even had, Tom Simpson on the Twitter at TomMUFC8 was saying with Matic out, do you think Pereira will start the season at 6 or will Jose go back to Herrera there? What do you reckon, Craig? Because I know you've watched all of pre-season as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
So do you think Pereira's ready to start in that position?
Yeah, I do actually. He's looked really, really good. Like, obviously, like it is pre-season, so you shouldn't take too much stock in it. But he's been doing fantastic. Like he was doing a lot way better than I thought he would.
I mean, the big question with him has always just been like, what is his best position?
Well, I'm not sure it's 6. That's my only issue is that if Mourinho wants to play him in that role, yes, he has the passing range, but even in pre-season, you've seen people can't kind of go past him easily enough. He's not a defensive player for me. He's a midfielder who can do a job, and will do that side of it. Like Scholes, like Modric, he'll incorporate it into his play. And he can definitely press and move and get about, and he has the engine and all that, but he's just not naturally a defensive player. So I would still like to see him. I know Matic is injured and all that, but I would still like to see him that little bit further forward with that little bit less responsibility, because if he is your last man, it can go wrong for you, But I just think all the good things he gives you on the ball are so much more worth it, and this is kind of where I'm going to struggle if we don't play him, because for me it says that we care more about defending than we do about attacking, and that is what's slightly starting to bother me now in terms of the way we set up, that your off the ball abilities and qualities, which I don't wish to diminish, and I understand totally about how important they are in football and how important it is to have your Fernandinhos, your Fabinhos, your Matiches, your Kantes, but if we're saying we don't want to dominate the ball, we don't want to move it around slickly, we don't want to pass it through the layers, and we don't want to whip it out wide and have that kind of dead ball quality as well, because it makes us slightly more susceptible to back, then I say I have a problem with that, big problem with that, because Pereira is so much better on the ball than what we have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Pereira will not start the season at 6 just because Mourinho loves a big, strong, defensive player in there.
Do you think it'll be McTominay?
Well, I don't know whether, even if it's Herrera, McTominay, I still think there's an outside chance Fellaini might start the season.
Yeah, well,
let's see. I don't know when
he signed on, didn't he? He signed on.
Well, yeah, I know Craig in particular was ecstatic when Fellaini re-signed. I think he was. I actually saw a lot of United fans that were kind of already celebrating because most papers were talking about where he was going. He was linked here, there, and everywhere, and I actually found it quite amusing to see the fallout when he re-signed. I mean, I was kind of ambivalent about it. I've always supported Fellaini.
Fellaini had a very good World Cup.
Well, he came on and changed that Japan game where they were like 2-0 down, and Belgium were looking like they were going out that day.
And Moussa Dembele, who a lot of people want us to sign, and who a lot of people think is God's gift to midfield, was kept out of that team by Witsel and Fellaini. Now, you could say that was a strategic poor point for Belgium, and they might have done better with Dembele, but that's a few managers who are making that decision, So, not that I'm like a massive Fellaini fan. I don't ever love to see him starting in a Manchester United shirt, but I think he can do a job, and I think he's a great option to have as long as that's not your plan.
I think that's the problem, and I think he is sort of the plan.
Yeah,
really. That's my only problem.
I don't think he is the first choice if everybody's fit, but I just think he is still a decent squad option to have in there. Like I said, I've always defended him. I wouldn't have been that bothered if he left at his age or whatever, but yeah, equally happy that he re-signs and stays in there. Like I say, he may well, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts the season for us. Like I say, I don't know what day he's back in training. We'll see, but I'll still expect Herrera, McTominay to start, but hopefully there's still a space for Pereira in there somewhere. Like I say, his start of the season deserves it, but I would not expect him to start at 6, that's for sure, just because he's just not that Mourinho style.
And a 3-man midfield, I wouldn't be shocked, particularly given we don't have the trickiest start to the season. It's like Leicester without Mahrez, and I think Vardy's injured. why can't we go and dominate that game without a physical presence? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'll be disappointed if he doesn't. If he's not on the pitch against Leicester, I'll be disappointed starting 11.
Martial has gone home.
Yeah.
Will he be back with the group when you go back? Because you didn't mention him there.
I don't know.
So another player, do you think he'll be on the pitch against Leicester, is Martial. You know, we talked a lot about him at the end of last season. Again, we had a Twitter question from Benny Becks. He said, I'd like some discussion regarding the Martial Mourinho situation. We talked a lot about him last season. I think we had Ryan Baldy on, who'd written the book, and he said he was a massive Martial fan and was really disappointed in how things had played out under Mourinho. And yeah, I kind of agreed with his sentiments. I thought Martial was pretty unlucky last year when Sanchez came in to get shunted out, and I wasn't that surprised that he's been linked away with a move. But yeah, he did go away on tour. I think Martial as well would probably be pretty upset that he didn't go to the World Cup. It wasn't involved in that France squad, and I think a lot of that. Yeah. You know, he probably thinks. Although there was a lot of big players that didn't make that France squad as well. They had plenty of talent that wasn't there. I mean, there's players like Benzema, Ribéry, and all that out there. So yeah, they had all sorts of.
But when you think Giroud played striker for them, and I don't think he
didn't have a shot on target in the whole tournament.
So I mean, I know he did a good. I'm a big fan of Giroud, to be honest, but I know he did a specific job. But come on, Martial's surely a better player to have in the team.
Well, I don't think he would have played the same position. I mean, Martial's
I think
more.
That's just it. Like,
there's players like Mbappe. He was probably, you know, the likes of Mbappe were more players. Because even there was I think Lamar or whatever didn't go either. There was a lot of big exciting players who did not end up going there. But anyway, Ed, do you think Martial will be starting against Leicester for us next week?
I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
You would be surprised if he did?
Wouldn't be surprised.
You wouldn't be? All right. Yeah, I mean, he's also been like the victim of some comments. Mourinho's not impressed that he's gone off for the birth of his... I think he was kind of maybe all right with him going off for the birth, but he hasn't come straight back again.
He doesn't have to be sold before the Leicester game. He can be sold after it, so it wouldn't surprise me if he plays and then gets sold. But which I think is a bit of a travesty, but it is what it is.
He did play in those first couple of preseason games, and to be honest, was slightly disappointing.
Very disappointing.
Yeah, very. I mean, I wouldn't judge too much, but I just think you've had all summer off. You've watched France, you know, obviously do what they did, and you know it's going to be a big year for you, and you just question.
Yeah, you know that Lukaku, Rashford coming back late. It's a big chance for you to say you're going to have a chance.
He doesn't want to be at the club anymore. He's, you know, Mourinho.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. Yeah.
Mourinho said at the end of the season, anyone who is unhappy here can leave. Martial's unhappy. I can only assume he took that as a veiled message to him. He wants to go. And the way he's been treated and the way he's played, he's perfectly well within his rights to look for a club that's of his stature and will give him the games.
Yeah, it's just a super disappointing situation. I think there's definitely blame on both sides. You know, I don't think he's been that badly mismanaged. Like, he played a lot of minutes last year, whether you say he started or didn't start or came off the bench, and whether he was, you know, this whole, people like to make a big deal of the fact that he was stripped of his number, cruelly stripped. Mourinho came in and took that number off him.
I think that's over the top. But, yeah.
And that, you know, he was dropped, you know, unconditionally for Sanchez, which may or not be the case, but like for me, Sanchez is a better player every day of the week, in every facet of the game almost. Does Martial have more potential and more, you know, potential for years to come? Yes, you know, definitely. Is Sanchez at the end of his career? Yes. Do we need to nurture youth at the moment, or do we need immediate impact? You know, you'd probably be fair enough well within your rights to say that Mourinho wanted immediate impact. And although he didn't necessarily get that with Sanchez, you can totally understand the decision.
Yeah, but Martial came in and had an immediate impact. He has it in his locker. He can do it, and I'm not necessarily convinced.
I mean, he can do it, but has he ever been really consistent? I know his first season he scored 17 goals, something like that, and Van Gaal had him playing well. But and he had patches this season, but for me, he's still so one-dimensional in the way he plays. You know, you don't see a game where he dominates from start to finish. You just don't see it.
I actually think that the moment where I realised that Martial was never going to match with Mourinho was last year. He didn't start the season, Rashford did, but then he kind of fought his way into the team. It was just before Christmas, November, December, he had a great run where he scored like 3 match-winning goals. It was like in about 4 matches. And, you know, there were games we won 1-0, 2-1, and he was scoring that goal. He was brilliant for about a month. and then Mourinho bought Sanchez and turfed him out of the team. And it was at that point I just said, right, there's no way that it's just not. There's not a match here.
I still think, and I'm a huge Martial fan. I think he has all the talent in the world, but I still think people overstate the quality he's been able to bring to us consistently in these patches that people say he had. Mourinho has track record of allowing people all the freedom in the world, like Ronaldo, Hazard, Ozil, building teams around players that are special and creative and taking the onus off them defensively or whatever else and getting the best out of them. Like, he has proven that he has done that with lots of good players, and I just don't think Martial justifies that, and I don't think he has the mentality to succeed here. And I do think, a different manager could have got more. I'm not saying Mourinho has done everything he could or hasn't made missteps or errors, but for me, the way Martial has dealt with it and has responded to it, and just the way he's still so inconsistent, which isn't a massive crime for a player of his age, but it does need to be tempered with the fact that people are saying, but he should start every single game and play every single minute. He's our best player, because that's just not the case.
I don't think that, but I think it's sort of unfair to say that he couldn't be an important part of like a plan B, or playing in a different way to give Lukaku a rest.
I just think at the end of the day that Martial is one of these players that just doesn't match with Mourinho. And I hope he doesn't ever reach the heights that we see from the likes of De Bruyne, Salah, who are also players who fell that way, that just did not work out with Mourinho for whatever reason, and then went on to show other places that they were obviously top players, but whether it's Mourinho's system, his way of doing things, that they just were not a good fit.
We've had that before. We've had that before with Diego Forlan, who was, aside from smashing Liverpool, horrendous for us, and then went and smashed.
That was a bit different, though. I think that was a bit different. I think he just had a very bad run. He was given all those games. It wasn't about the system or the way of playing. He just, started badly and just didn't have that confidence, and Ferguson just had to let him go. It wasn't the same as these kind of situations where players like Salah, De Bruyne weren't given maybe the chances that they could have been given.
No manager would have started Salah over the options that Chelsea had. De Bruyne maybe slightly different, but I think people would take these things as issues specific to Mourinho, when I don't necessarily think they are. I think he's been unlucky with those two. And if anything, Mourinho's, and I come off here like I'm the biggest Mourinho fan in the world, but I just feel like I have to kind of temper these things that people are saying, because if anything, what Mourinho did for those players was very Ferguson-esque in terms of letting them go for the best thing for them in their careers, to go and be the best player they could be. Like, he did it with Lukaku as well. He would not be the player he is if he didn't go to the West Broms, to the Evertons, to build himself up. De Bruyne playing in the German league was the absolute making of him. Salah really only just started to click. You always sort of knew he was a tricky player, but really it was that Roma stint that really saw him become the player he was going to be today. And also I think suits that Liverpool style to a T. But Mourinho gave them that chance just by being brutally honest and saying, look, I don't have a place for you in my team. And to keep them would have been negligent. He could have kept Salah, De Bruyne and played them, 5-10 games. And a lot of players would just stay at the big club hoping that they're going to get their chance and wouldn't get it. But what I'm saying is, it's not the same. Martial is getting loads of minutes. That's not the same as Kevin De Bruyne. That's not the same as Salah. And that's not the same as Lukaku. He got more minutes than they ever had at their big clubs before they moved on. It's a totally separate issue. His issue is quality, consistency, and application on the pitch. Their issue was getting on the pitch, because they were that young in their career and had such quality ahead of them. We don't have quality ahead of Martial. Martial is our best quality. He's just not producing it. That's a whole different thing. And it can still come back to Mourinho's tactics. It can come back to Mourinho's expectations. It can come back to Mourinho's motivation and man management, which all those things I would accept. I don't really know. I think time will prove one of them right or one of them wrong. At this point, I don't want any player at the club who doesn't want to be here. I don't care who you are. Like, it just bothers me. It just annoys me. And to me, it's entitled. And if you feel that bad, just come out and say it. Just say, look, I want to leave. I want to go, and go. Don't fanny around, hum and ha, year on year, strop, whatever. Just make the decision. And if that's the decision that needs to be made, I'll be sad, because I think he can be a world class player. But I will forget about it very quickly, because I think you're better getting a player who wants to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we might actually see Martial start the Leicester game next week.
I think he will.
But I also think that he might then be sold.
Yeah.
Just because we've got this weird situation, haven't we, where our transfer window is going to close next week before the season starts, but we can still sell players.
But do you know what as well?
Teams.
We have until 2020, so I think unless we get a proper bid for him in excess of 60 million, he won't be sold, and that would be a bad thing for Martial, I think, because as much as I would sit and hope, I would kind of happily, like, I don't care about the money. I would care about the replacement. But if our transfer window shuts, I don't want him to be sold selfishly. It would probably be the best thing for his career. But if our transfer window is shut and we can't replace him with a big purchase that we would obviously bring in, like a big right winger, Perisic or whoever it is going to be, then I wouldn't want him to be sold. But that could be the worst thing for him, because as much as I would sit there and go, oh, he might finally, click, and Jose and him might finally click and understand what each other wants, and he has that season that we all know he can have and wants to have. But more likely, he has a repeat of last season, which does nothing for him and does nothing for us.
So while we're on the transfer tip, there was another question also from Benny Becks. He said, at the moment, the assumed focus is on us buying a new centre-back rather than strengthening the right wing position. What do you think is more important? Craig, what do you reckon what's the most important position you'd like to, because Mourinho said that he would like to have two players in, which most people are assuming is a centre-back and a winger, but he's only expecting one of those to come in.
That was actually about one position. That comment, I think it was about, he gave 5 names for one position, and he wants 2, but he'll just get 1.
Yeah,
rather than 5 different positions,
No, yeah, I think he was talking about 2 different. Thinks he might get 2 different players. That, yeah, I'm assuming are 2 different positions, and I'm pretty sure he's talking about a centre back and a winger.
Yeah, ideally centre back, to be honest. I think that's more of a need right now, because Bai gets injured too much. Smalling is a disaster. Jones, he just pulls funny faces all the time, and Rojo also injured and inconsistent. So I think
he's going to be sold, isn't he?
Probably, yeah, to Wolves. So I think we need a reliable centre back more than we do need a right winger.
Yeah, one player we haven't mentioned, and I actually watched him a couple of times and thought he was quite impressive. Lindelof actually had a pretty decent World Cup.
Yeah, I think he's been good.
Very decent, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Last year was not a great year for him, but you'd give any player coming in from a foreign league a year to adjust to the Premier League and United. And yeah, maybe this year he can show that he is actually worthy of the price we paid for him. Like I say, I was pretty impressed with him at the World Cup. And Mourinho has mentioned him as well as a possible option for right back, because yeah, it could be an issue of who's playing their start of the season. So yeah, he's a player that will, another kind of make or break season after 1 year to adjust. This year for him, he's either got to do it or not really. But yeah, we've linked with Maguire, Alderweireld. Yeah, let's see. Like I say, Maguire's stock went up massively during this World Cup. Yeah, he always looked like a good player.
But he's not being funny, but it's sort of easy to look good in a back 3.
No, but I think he actually looked really good on the ball. He's obviously great in the air. I was actually so impressed by him actually on the ball. Often I'm seeing him in the opposition half with the ball. We don't see that enough from our defenders. That's a reason why Southgate said he wasn't taking Smalling, because he didn't rate his on the ball play. I wouldn't be upset to see Maguire come in, although I do worry it's one of those World Cup knee-jerk kind of purchases where the guy's played out of his skin for a month.
Speaking of, what about Pavard? Isn't he at Stuttgart? World Cup winner?
Yeah, I mean, the depressing thing about that is I could rhyme off about 5 fullbacks, left back and right back that we should buy. We just don't seem to be looking at any of them. And I just don't understand it. I would love to see Harry Maguire come in. I think money's money, whatever. You're banned from the league, you're banned after World Cup, you're going to get jibbed, just suck it up. I think, as Nick said, I think he's brilliant on the ball. I actually thought he was extremely good all year at Leicester. I know they conceded the most goals in the Premier League, I think, but I wouldn't say that's entirely his fault. I actually thought he looked really good, looks really cultured on the ball, looks like a leader, dominant in the air. There was a new poster on the CAF who posted, I don't know whether it was in Maguire's transfer thread or in the transfer tweets thread. I'll find the post and put it in the thread of this podcast. It was a whole breakdown of stats for top class centre backs across Europe, and Maguire, as much as stats can be read into, and he did sort of acknowledge that in his post, that you can't just quite justify a centre back based on stats alone, but he made a really compelling argument for Maguire being really, really close to top class and doing a lot of really good things that would actually really, really help us, because we need someone who's dominant in the air. Bailly isn't. And we Smalling is, but he's awful at everything else. We need someone who's good on the ball, because again, Bailly isn't, but Bailly is rapid, he's one-on-one, so good, he's dominant physically, and in kind of one-on-one duels. So I think that'd be a super pairing. I just don't understand why. I get Young had a good a good World Cup, and Valencia, is a solid right back, but I just can't understand why we're still not buying fullbacks. It's like right wing, which I also think we need, but there isn't the players out there in right wing. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We're talking about Rebic, who looks workmanlike and decent, but it wouldn't. I think I'd take him, like, just see how he goes. You never know, he might explode, but no one's really gonna plant their eggs in that basket. Apart from that, like, we haven't really identified any actually viable right winger. Mahrez has gone to City. I think he would have been amazing. I don't know why we're not in for him, but they've been working on that for a few years. So maybe it was just never an option. But right wing is a tricky spot at the moment in world football. Whereas right back and left back, there's dozens. Tellez, there's just so many. Like, Tierney at Celtic, apparently we might look into next year. Like, great. What, like, do we not want to play good football this year? Is that just not an option? Because right backs and left backs are so important in the modern game and so important to us the way we play, because we don't have wingers who actually create natural width. So you have to let your fullbacks do it. And like Valencia, he's a trooper. Ashley Young, he's got good quality, but they're just not that level that you need to really go and compete and to do well, on the big stage. And I just think that's so disappointing. I know we can't. I
think the bigger issue, of course, is at their age, they're obviously not the future of the team.
Exactly, of course. And
but we have bought a right back. We have bought a right back this summer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming none of you have ever seen him play, because I certainly haven't.
I haven't. No.
I mean, he's had a rapid rise. I think he's only had a handful of games at Porto, right, Diego Dalot?
Yeah, I think
he's
like
injured at the moment anyway.
8 senior games, and look, the YouTube clips look great, and I'm sure we've bought him for a reason, and that's fantastic. And like, if we just got a left back because we bought Dalot and we're happy with Valencia and him kind of sharing the time, then great, I could cope with that. It's no bother. But the fact that we seem to have spent all summer talking about Alexandro haggling over 5 or 10 million, just go buy someone else. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but do you not think one more chance for Luke Shaw, or you think it's a write-off?
Tough.
I think he'll get his chance, because
I think he probably. I don't know. I think as soon as Young come back, he's dropped, and then you're in the same problem of his confidence and his mentality. And I still don't. He doesn't convince me defensively, even though I do like him. I like his energy and I like his runs. I like his running. But I still think I still think in every game in preseason I've been able to identify attacks that have come very obviously from his lack of positioning or his mistakes, which I really like him. I think he gets such a hard time, so I'd love it if he set on fire, but I don't think he's ever going to be our left back.
Oh, I don't think so either, but I think he'll get his chance this season, because we just won't shell out for the player in this window.
Yeah, there has been like a bit of, I mean, at the moment it's all media kind of rumour and all, but they're trying to build up a bit of not a fallout, but definitely a bit of a standoff between Mourinho and Woodward and the board over transfers this summer. I mean, really, we've only made one proper transfer, because Dalot is very young, Grant is virtually meaningless. But yeah, Fred. I mean, again, a player I know nothing about, and I'm not going to claim to. Was in the Brazil squad at the World Cup, didn't get a game. I'm assuming none of you are experts on the Ukrainian league, but I don't know if anyone's even seen much of him in the odd Champions League game here and there. I'm not going to claim to say anything about Fred, really, and I saw him very briefly in that Liverpool game the other day make his debut, but it wasn't really the time to be analysing or taking much out of a game. Have any of you done any better research than me on Fred?
No.
Very little. And he didn't play in the World Cup that much. It's very hard to kind of get any kind of gauge on.
He didn't play at all. I mean, I think he was even injured at the start of the World Cup. But even the fact that he was there, I suppose he's got that quality. But that's the other question. Like we were talking before, who's going to start in midfield in this first game? And we've not mentioned Fred. And he's, all right, he was at the World Cup, but he didn't play, so he's pretty fresh. What exactly his best position is, I'm not sure. What I'd read about him, people were talking about him being like more of a defensive midfielder.
I thought it was a defensive 6.
So did I, but Mourinho came out and said, we have players we have big physical. He literally said we have big physical players like Matic and Pogba, but what we needed was someone more technical and who could link, midfield to attack, and that's why we got Fred. And I was like, I don't think that's what he does.
No.
I don't think that's what he does, so I don't understand. The only thing
you'd assume being Brazilian that he's going to be pretty damn good technically. Just like I say, I'm just guessing here. I'm not pretending to know anything.
Well, the one thing I do know is that Guardiola wanted him, and he is the Messiah, so he must be the best player in the world. So I mean, we're clearly on to a winner from that point.
Any other players you'd like to see come in, Colm? Because I know you're hot on the transfer muppetry.
I'd love Maguire to come in. I would love Perisic to come in, but I don't think it's happening. I'm not that bothered about Rebic. I just think it's at that stage now where it's very difficult to see who we could get. I think we will get a centre back and not a right winger, and it will very much depend on how talks go with Tottenham, although I don't really see that happening because they seem to be holding out for Martial, if you believe the papers. Rojo is apparently going to Everton. There's a lot of talk about Yerry Mina, who I don't really want. I think that's really odd. He had a sort of a half a good World Cup, I think, basically because he scored against England in the last minute. People think he's good or something, but Barcelona have basically, after buying him like just about a year ago, have basically just said we have no interest in this fella whatsoever. Like, so does that not tell you? Everything you need to know. On top of that, he's a big physical dominant. He's basically but like maybe not even as good. Like, he's not good on the ball. He's he plays with Davinson Sanchez and makes Davinson Sanchez look like Beckenbauer, at the World Cup. So I wouldn't really understand it. It smacks of just get any centre back who's available kind of thing. So I'm holding out hope for Maguire, but I don't think we'll do any business in the attacking side of the team. Although I could be wrong, but it just seems like there isn't time. We're not hearing anything about any potential deals. So, which I don't. You know what? See, if we just sold some players, I'd be happy enough, Nick, because I think we still need to clear out the squad. I think a smaller squad helps us in many ways because it reduces options and makes it very clear to everyone their role and stuff like that. If Rojo were to leave, I'd be quite happy. If Darmian goes, I'll literally do cartwheels because he's a useless footballer. Blind's already gone, which I was a little bit sad about, but it's the best thing for him and it's a good move going to Ajax where he'll be a leader and a captain. But yeah, clearing out a bit of the deadwood, I think, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, and I think that bodes well for the next transfers and the January window or the next summer window. And I don't necessarily believe that it's one or like people are saying Mourinho can't buy until we sell. I don't think we're ever in that position as a club. I don't think that's how our finances operate at all. It's about only buying the players that we actually want, which is, it seems right now like it's disappointing and a lot of people are panicking like crazy, but actually it's what we've been crying out for, which is kind of a common theme on the CAF, is that one year you say something and the next year you say the exact opposite. That's the problem. Like, it's just a really common trend. But last year it was, we just panic buy, we're just going for Galacticos, we're just going superstars, we're not building a team. You can't buy 5 players every year and expect it to work. And this year we're getting rid of Deadwood and only buying players that we really think we need and holding out for the players we want, and we don't accept that either. So, Maguire would do me.
Fair enough.
What are you laughing at, Craig?
So just the wording. Maguire would do me.
Oh, right.
Let's talk about then expectations for the season. I mean, as we talked about, there's a lot of negativity around at the moment. And yeah, we did have a couple of other questions on the same kind of theme. I mean, there was Sri Camp saying, I'd like to know, do you think Jose will last this season? He said, I sound pessimistic, but the manager sounds worse and worse every day when he opens his mouth. And then, yeah, similar sentiments from Simon at S4MUFC saying, is the season over yet? Because this is painful to watch already. I've never been so unmotivated to watch United in my life. I don't know if it's an age thing or is Mourinho to blame. There's a lot of United fans who are in similar kind of sentiments at the moment. And to be honest, I'm finding it difficult to get excited about the start of the season. I mean, normally, I do watch the pre-season stuff. I mean, even Moyes and whatever like that, I was interested to see what happened. This year, I'm kind of pretty not that bothered about what's happening in pre-season and, not expecting a great start to the season either, really, just because of the World Cup and the hangover and this kind of thing. So who's gonna bring us some positivity here, eh? What's expectations for this season? Ed, why don't you start us off?
Well, I'm quietly excited for the season. I mean, I miss the Premier League when it's not on. As far as expectations go, I don't really have high expectations. I'm very disappointed about the transfer window. I think we need another player at least, but I'd like to see.
I think we will get another player. There's still another.
I think we will. Yeah,
no, we'll get another player in for sure. I wouldn't even be surprised if we got 2 more players. There's still another 10 days. There's going to be a massive amount of transfer activity this next week.
I'd like to see us have a good run at the league and win a cup at the very least.
All right.
At the very least.
I think you'll be disappointed.
Yeah, I think I will too. But I don't have any expectations of Mourinho staying beyond this season.
So all right, that answers that question. Do you think he'll see out the season?
I think he'll see out the season, but I think he'll go of his own volition. I don't think he'll want to stay any longer. He'll want to go somewhere where he can win trophies quickly and easily.
I mean, he's been given a lot of backing. He spent a lot of money. All right, City have spent more, and yeah, I mean Liverpool have spent a shitload of money in this transfer window if you include Keita, who came in Christmas as well. But yeah, I'm not really seeing the figures on.
And don't get me wrong, I don't think this is related to any sort of third season meltdown for Mourinho. I just think he will want to move, and I think perhaps the board will be at a position where they think, well, if he's not in it, we're happy for him to go as well. I don't think there'll be much attempt to keep him on much longer.
All right, Craig, what's your expectations? And I think you've been defending Mourinho a bit more than everybody else has, and putting things in lockdown to the press, and not taking too much notice of these negative comments. So, what, you feeling excited for the season? What, are we going to do better than we did last year?
I mean, I'm excited because the Premier League will be back, and I'll get to see United play properly again. But I'm hoping that we will be more of a challenge for City this season. But in regards to Mourinho, it really will depend on how the next 10 days goes. If the next 10 days of transfer activity don't go well, then if we don't kill it in the January window, then I can see Mourinho definitely leaving by the end of the season, if not before. But if we do get the players he wants now, and then he wants others and gets them in January as well, I think he'll stay a bit longer. But it wouldn't surprise me if he did leave at the end of the season.
All right, Cole.
I think Craig actually touched on something there that's quite relevant, which is one of my sort of issues with Mourinho, is that it seems to centre so much around recruitment. That seems to be so important, whereas I think maybe for other managers, your squad and your way of playing is what's important, and recruitment, fills holes, but ultimately, you work with what you have. And I think that is a big. I'm not saying he's like a checkbook manager. I know he has always had great teams, by virtue of his own success. That's just really, like you said, the same about Guardiola. But my big issue is how we play football, and we can talk about his mood, and we can talk about whether we think he is negative, whether he doesn't motivate people in the right way with his comments, whether the squad is harmonious or not, and the fact of the matter is no one knows. Like, the press makes it into more, we don't really see what's really going on, so it's wasted hour, really, to be quite honest. What I am always looking at is what's happening on the pitch. Am I excited to watch United? Last season, nearly all the time, no. Were we impressive in games that mattered? No. You look at the Sevilla game and stuff like that, just abject in big games. I know, sorry to bring it up, right? But and that's my big issue. And if he can't make this group of players play well next year, I want them to go, and I think he will go. And that's my big issue. I have no issue with Mourinho. I think he did a fantastic job in his first year winning the trophies that we did. I think he's certainly done better than any of our managers post-Fergie, and I still think it's a mammoth task for whichever manager's coming in, because there's so much deadwood in our squad. We've recruited poorly, and we've got players that are too old and stuff like that, but we also have a lot of quality mixed in with that, and to not even be able to get anything out of those players is where I really lose the kind of vote of confidence. So if it's football like last year, I'll be looking forward to the next manager, put it that way. And I don't mean that in a harsh, get Mourinho out kind of way. I'm more than happy for him to have a crack at this year and see how we get on. But I do that's in hope more than an expectation.
If the football is still sort of mediocre, but we win the league, would you still want him to?
I mean, the football's never mediocre when you win the league.
If we win the league, everything's forgotten. Everything's forgotten.
I don't know about that.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah. Those two things can't happen, even the way Chelsea won the league, and stuff like that, grinding out 1-0s, they were dominant. Yes, it was messy, and it was, physical and stuff like that, but they were dominant and they did good things. I don't think any team that win the leagues, to win the league, you're talking, especially now, you're beating out 5 quality teams, you're going to have to perform in the big games, you're going to have to put the small teams away, and you're going to have to score 90 plus goals. It's you do not get there by playing bad football. Yes, his tactic. There was a thread the other day about how all the other managers are so pro football and they all press high, and we play this prehistoric brand of football. If our brand of football works better than their brand of football, of course, the season we'll win the league, and that'll be great, and I'll be buzzing. I'll be happy as I. And I think if he does win the league, I think it's testament to him. That would be an unbelievable, and that's really all you need to know about the expectations, is that I would be amazed if we won the league next year. But I'd be so happy. I would think it was one of the most impressive things Mourinho has ever done if he manages to do that, because I just think we're a wee bit off, and I don't think don't think we're going to. I don't think we're cohesive enough and playing the right way.
It is difficult to make a logical case for us winning the league this year. Talking
Super
today,
difficult, yeah.
But
things change.
Three things are gonna make the difference this season. One, I don't think City can be as good as they were last year, because especially at the start of the season,
don't
it was
jinx
absolutely
it.
ridiculous. I'm trying to make a case here, and just say, look, we've been blessed with positivity from our big fans who help us out on the podcast here. So I'm trying to make the case, so bear with me. So one, I don't think City can be as good as they were last season. And then there's going to be two players for us who are going to make or break our season. One is Pogba. If Pogba can obviously bring that French form into this team,
Pogba's
it's
going to
be huge. No, Pogba is staying. He's going to have another year with us. And can he bring that World Cup form? And that's the big question. And then the other one is obviously Sanchez, that we didn't really see too much from him at the end of last year. He looks fit, raring to go. I think he said something like it's the first summer he's had off in about 10 years or something. And looks well up for it. These two players are the ones that you can really make the case and say they are the ones that can really push us forward from what we did last year, where we can see a lot more from those two in particular. And as we know, it's the attacking side of it where we were missing. And like I say, these two players are the ones where can still give you some hope to come out and press there. And at the end of the day, we did finish second last year. And you'd hope that, we move on from there. Mourinho's having more time. And it's a shame, of course, that this pre-season has been a bit of a write-off. He's not really had time to work with everybody. But, you don't want to begrudge players having those great World Cups. It's just unfortunate the way it goes. Hopefully, it's not going to affect the start of the season too much. Even Leicester, who we're playing first, have had players, whether it's Vardy's, Maguire's, and a couple of others who were involved there. Whereas, there's other ones who've had hardly any impact whatsoever. So we'll see from there how it goes. But like you say, nobody's really... Last season, I probably had more hope of winning the league than I do asking right now today. But for me, as long as we get closer, we've got to get closer to City. And
I just want to see us start playing like a team and start playing like a brand of football that I can get behind. I don't even care if we finish fourth playing good football. That would, at the moment, that would please me more than anything else. And I just had a look. Mourinho is joint top with the bookies to be the first Premier League manager to leave their club this year.
Really?
So
he's not going to get sacked.
I'm going to stick a tenner on that, and that'll do. Nah. The only thing I don't like is division, and I hate. It was like when we had Moyes, and there was that big split. Amongst United fans, there was people. I know it was probably much more in favour of him going, but you had the camp that was like, look, we must stick by the manager. Fergie picked him. We need to give them time. Blah blah. And then there was others, and it gets so like vitriolic, and it gets so impossible to have a conversation anymore. And that's a bit what the CAF's like at the moment. You have one camp, you have the other camp, and every single topic comes back down to that one issue. Why is Martial not playing well? Oh, it's Mourinho's fault. Oh no, it's Martial's fault. Mourinho's doing fine. Why are we playing such crap football? Oh, it's Mourinho's fault. No, it's not. It's the player's fault. Blah blah. And when you get these constant divisions, it tires me out, and it takes away from my energy and takes away from my enthusiasm. To be involved and to participate both on the CAF and in real life. So. And when it gets to that point, at some stage, I think it becomes untenable, and it doesn't matter whose fault it is, or whether Mourinho was right or wrong, or whether he's the man or not, or whether he's a great manager or not. You just have to move on and just say, look, it hasn't worked for lots of reasons. Yeah. And you just have to be excited about a change, And I think if we don't do really well, quite quickly, that's the stage we'll be at, because I don't see people, I think we are quite fair on this podcast, and we're all quite level in our thoughts about it. But not everyone's like that, and I could see boos, and I could see things like that, and it just with Mourinho, that's only going to end one way, and it's badly. So if he doesn't get everyone on side quite quickly, I think that's the way it'll go.
Yeah, and I do think that the match-going fans were starting to turn a little bit last season. Like I say, as somebody who goes to the stadium and can give the feel from there was a lot of people who are not happy.
And they're normally much more level with criticism, like of players and stuff like that. They're normally quite forgiving and quite level-headed, I would say. So
definitely, you often see a lot more criticism and negativity online than you do in the stadium. But I will say there was quite a lot of kind of low expectations frustration and resignation to not scoring too many goals or playing that great last season.
We smashed Leicester. Anders Pereira scores, a hat-trick. Fred probably all 3 assists, and then we'll beat whatever the next team is, and we'll beat Liverpool, and we'll be top by Christmas, and it'll all be grand.
Oh yeah.
We have good players. It could work out. It could go really well. It could be a surprise that we could get. As I say, Sanchez could have a bigger year. Rashford could come into his own. Martial might surprise everyone. Lukaku, I think, will have another 30-goal season. Probably more goals in the Premier League this time. Pogba could have a huge year. If you get 4 or 5 of those players playing, you're much more than halfway there. So it's not like it's minor things that are holding us back. And if they click, then the whole thing will look a lot rosier.
I mean, there were shades of it last season after Sanchez had come in. Quite a bit after, but there were signs there.
Good signs. Yeah,
we did come second last season. I actually, like I say, do not expect that we're going to win the league. For me, it'll be a surprise that we win. But I do think we can go further in the Champions League. We definitely can from that. And even a semi-final, a final, something like that would give something to cheer. It's been a while since we've gone deep in that tournament. And, Liverpool, we finished ahead of them last season. But and then they were disappointed at the end. But getting even to a Champions League final is something to celebrate nowadays. So, let's see what we can do over there. I do want to see a lot more. I hope he gives some of the young players a chance in these cup games in particular. Last season I complained about him playing almost too strong a teams in these Carling Cup and FA Cup games, and I do want to see some of these young lads get more of a chance there, and save the big players for focusing on the Premier League and the Champions League. We don't think unless there's any major announcements and we buy Messi next week or anything, I don't think we're going to be doing another podcast until after the Leicester game. Do keep hitting us up on the Twitter. We were really happy to get a lot of input into what you wanted on this first show of the season from everybody this time. So please let us know on the Twitter or Facebook as well. But most of it seems to come through Twitter, what you want to see, any questions you want us to cover. I think let's see what we do. Like I say, we're recording this on the Monday night. We've got playing on the Friday. We are actually the opening game of the season, which Mourinho also complained about because it's an extra day or two that he doesn't get to get everybody going. Kicking off at Leicester. I think it's a decent match to start with. So, hopefully we can start on a high note and take it from there, really.
We'll sign Maguire, then smash him.
Yeah, exactly. 4-1. Or we'll not sign Maguire. He'll be amazing. And... we'll just not think about it.
It's obviously a big one, Maguire, and I don't know whether he's just trying a bit of mind games for this first game because he's obviously a Leicester player. It's our first match of the season, but let's see how it goes from there. All right, thanks guys. Good night to all.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Good night.